Hello. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Real Talk About the Town, an online platform where candidates in the November general election respond to questions provided by the Brotherhood of Elders Network, which are critical to the future of communities of color. My name is Spencer Whitney, and I'm here to help you understand the process and let you know how viewers of this online forum can voice their opinion. All of the mayoral and school board candidates were invited to participate and were sent a list of questions. Candidates' responses are posted here. Inappropriate material has been deleted. Mayoral candidates Ignacio de la Fuente, Tyron Jordan, and Trevor Reed did not submit responses by the deadline. School board candidates Michael D. Hutchinson and Joel Velasquez did not submit responses by the deadline. Since the initial invitation, Peter Liu has made a number of anti-Semitic, racist, and homophobic comments. Therefore, he is not a participant in the forum. Our online forum also provides a venue that allows you to respond to what you have heard from the candidates. Simply make a recording of your response that is no longer than 3 minutes and email it to candidatesforum@brotherhoodofelders.net. Answers longer than 3 minutes will be edited and inappropriate material will be deleted. The Brotherhood of Elders Network is an intergenerational network of men of African descent whose mission is to foster environments where Black males are empowered to flourish by engaging in advocacy, leveraging resources and relationships to benefit Black boys, and maintaining cultural connections to African heritage. To access more information about Real Talk About the Town, please visit brotherhoodofelders.net. A series of technical issues limited the number of Jennifer Brohard's responses that were able to be utilized. The Brotherhood of Elders staff and Ms. Brohard agreed to move forward with the material included in the forum. What is your vision for quality schooling in Oakland? What would you do in your elected role to bring that vision about?
I envision every Oakland public school being a place where every single child feels connected to and supported by a caring adult, where every single child's learning needs are known and are effectively addressed, and where every single child's caregiver feels valued and engaged with by the child's teacher. 80% of Black and Latino students are below grade level in reading and mathematics, and our high school graduation rate remains the lowest in Alameda County. Political infighting and factionalism across our school district have rendered the school board weak and rudderless. Now more than ever, Oakland needs effective school board members who have the know-how, disciplined leadership, and proven experience to enact solutions that improve the lives of young people. First, the school board must be organized to be 100% focused on holding district administration accountable for improving students' learning outcomes. My plan is to work closely with my school board colleagues to determine key learning outcome metrics to continuously track and monitor, to review school plans, budgets, and learning outcomes, and to allocate 85% of all district revenue to schools to empower educators to foster instructional improvement and innovation, to provide early intervention to struggling students, to build strong working relationships between teachers and parents, and to create a powerful culture of professional responsibility. Second, we must reform Measure G and Measure G1. Oaklanders provide $33 million annually to the Oakland Unified School District through these two parcel taxes. Despite our investment, Oakland has failed to improve learning outcomes. In 2014, I authored Measure N, the College and Career Readiness for All Act, a parcel tax 100% dedicated to providing every high school student access to high-quality career pathways. Measure N has increased Oakland's graduation rate and decreased its dropout rate by double digits. My plan is to rewrite Measure G and Measure G1 with the purpose of catalyzing transformative improvement in our elementary schools and middle schools, respectively. These ballot measures will provide 90% of all funds going directly to schools and require each school to detail how it will get all students to achieve grade level competency in reading and mathematics. These ballot measures will be monitored by independent oversight commissions and will be accountable to voter ratification every 8 to 10 years.
My vision for quality schools in Oakland is that every family and every child in every neighborhood has access to a school that supports them in two ways, that supports them with their academics and also supports them in building confidence, agency, and self-expression. Currently, when you look across our 80 plus school sites, we have vast discrepancies in the academics program as well as those socio-emotional and self-expression programs that kids need in order to feel safe at school. I would want to make sure that we are bringing the conversation back every single time to student success. How are our students doing across all schools? How can we measure impact both at the academic level and that socio-emotional level? I want to make sure that student learning and student progress is at the top of our agenda and at the top of our mind every school board meeting, in every interaction, and around every single decision. As somebody who facilitates school districts across decisions from budgets to programs and really trying to cohere those pieces to ensure that the impact is on the student, I will bring a focus and a way to establish or maintain the priorities already there and consistently be that drumbeat asking our board, asking our superintendent, and asking our overall team, is this related to our student impact? How are we going to measure that impact? And if it's not resulting in that, then how are we going to revise and improve upon those decisions? So right now across Oakland, we are doing a number of really great things. We are also doing a number of not great things. And I want to bring all of us to the table to say what is working and what is not working. And with what is working, how can we better align our investments and our energy and our decisions to ensure we can scale those successes and make sure in the schools that deserve it the most, our most marginalized communities who right now have the least in terms of programming, adults in the buildings, community partners, how can we ensure that we are getting what those children and families deserve into those sites as soon as possible?
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Batchelor, and I'm running for school board in Oakland to represent District 6. I'm a product of working class immigrant parents who fought to make sure my public education gave me the tools I needed to thrive. I'm running for school board because I want working families in Oakland to feel like they can count on OUSD to give their children everything they deserve. My experience growing up in a working class family prompted me to dedicate my career to building worker power and supporting labor organizing all over the country. Over the last 15 years, I've had the honor of traveling the country to support fast food workers, home care workers, and hospital workers. In the last 10 years, I've focused on education justice by working with classified staff and educators from childcare providers to UC faculty. As a union organizer, I have learned how to support workers and community members in identifying issues, develop a strategy to make changes, and build a coalition to win. These are the skills that Oakland families need on the school board. As a school board member, I will work to create a budget that prioritizes the academic and social emotional success of our students and provides the proper funding to recruit and retain quality educators and classified staff, like my partner, who's a chemistry teacher at Fremont High School. We have the money and we are getting even more from the state with an increase of LCFF funds and new revenues from community schools. But we need a board that will prioritize the classroom, and if elected, I plan to do that. Our district spends 591% more than any other district in California on top administrative staff. I will fight to right size our district office so that we can put that money directly into the classroom. OUSD also has a 13.33% reserve when we only need a 3% per board policy. I will work to ensure that the district spends those funds to support our students.
Hi, everyone. I am Kira Mangia, running for Oakland School Board District 6. My vision for Oakland education is one where every student, no matter their background or circumstance, can thrive regardless of race or other common predictors of disparity. As it stands right now, we as a system are failing too many of our kids, especially our Black and Brown kids, at an unconscionable rate. I truly believe the challenges that Oakland faces are challenges currently being faced by almost every school district across California, if not the country. And if they're not facing them yet, they will be very soon. We are at a historic moment. It is a make or break time for our students, for our families, for our educators. We have the opportunity to become the model for how to make these decisions, get through the hard time we're in now, and get to the other side where all of our kids, our families, and our educators are thriving. And I have 3 priorities to get us there. One is our students. We need to refocus our time, energy, and resources on students and ensuring that they get the quality education they deserve. We need to ensure all students in Oakland, especially our Black and Brown students, who, again, we have failed in the district for far too long, are getting that quality education and are set up for success. Every decision that we make should go back to this, should go back to our students. That means engaging curriculum and rigorous instruction for our students, and it ultimately means improved academic, social, emotional, and other outcomes for them. As the only current Latina board member, I know how important it is to represent and advocate for the large population of Latino students in the district, recognizing they are not yet getting all of the supports that they need, such as teachers who reflect their diversity, resources, and programming. I also understand the additional layers of anti-Blackness that exist across the country, and of course in this district, that must also be addressed if we want to move forward. Black and Brown unity is key to us being a district that supports all of our students. That's my first priority, students. My second priority is fiscal solvency and ensuring we have a long-term sustainable budget in place so that we can make those good decisions for our students. My commitment is to ensuring that during my tenure on the board, we have a more stable, long-term budget in place that reflects our values, that will serve Oakland Public School students equitably, and that we can build on what we have now so that we can become a model across the country. My guiding bar will always be, how do we continue to build a stronger, more stable budget so that we can better serve our students? And then my final priority is rebuilding trust. We must acknowledge the deep levels of distrust and work intentionally to rebuild it. There have been generations upon generations of things done to community by government, by systems, so it makes sense why there is so much distrust even before the district's recent decisions regarding school closures. I commit to open, transparent, and inclusive processes that include authentic engagement and clear feedback loops with communication on all ends so that we can continue to rebuild that trust. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Facolia Manigo, and I'm an OUSD parent of 2 students and an OUSD graduate. And I have a very phenomenal vision. At the base of my vision is that children, especially our low-income foster youth and English learners, have a positive experience in our schools every day. The beauty of being a parent is that you do get to interact and enter a realm of learning with your children. And I want to be able to be supported as a parent to do that. And I want to see all other parents in our district be supported as well. And that's a big part of my vision. I believe in transformative family engagement. The idea that it's not just about showing up to back to school nights, but that parents are an integral partner to ensuring that students are given the maximum amount of support. For that vision to be real, we have to be able to deepen our investment in the classroom. I'm so sad every time the school year starts up and I see GoFundMe's or donor chooses by our teachers to fundraise for supplies and for resources that they need in our classrooms, like classroom libraries. So a big part of my vision is that we deepen our investment in our classrooms, make it so that our teachers do not bear the burden of the resources necessary to educate our children. And more important than all of that is that we actually do invest in our teachers and give them the dignity and the prevailing wage that they deserve, so that they can focus and do the high quality job that we really want them to do for our students. In addition to that, I'm a firm believer in providing supports to allow more classified staff to be supporting our classrooms. We have over 6,000 students in our system who are with an IEP or a 504 plan. Those are our students that should not be pushed into special day classes, but rather be a part and integrated into our system to the degree that we can. A big part of racially just community schools is being able to have inclusion across all of the diversity of our community. And that includes language, that includes ethnicity, and that also includes our learning abilities. As a school board member, to get to the vision that I have, we're going to have to be willing to evaluate everything. And so I believe in transparency of our budget. And one of the first priorities that I'll be pushing for is a complete independent audit of all of our expenses and revenue so that we can get a better sense of how we can restructure our district to prioritize and center our students.
Quality schooling to me is when our students are academically above the state standards and are ready to advance to the next school year. Our high school students are prepared to continue to college, university, or if they attended a trade program, they are ready to take on the world. As a board member, I will work with my fellow board members to bring back programs that will help prepare our students and also give support to our teachers with a better salary and the materials they need to teach our students.
If I am a black or brown parent, why should I send my child to an OUSD school?
If you are a Black or brown parent, why should you send your child to an OUSD school? One, I want to just acknowledge and validate the real fear and hesitancy in doing so. Again, as I mentioned in this first question, like we have failed our students, too many of our students for too long, and that there's real legitimacy behind not trusting us to do the job well. And I think that, not I think, and I know that there's so many deeply committed educators on every level who want to support our children to do well. The district has also really turned a corner around some of its programming. We are working on making literacy a priority so that we can increase those literacy rates and ensure that all of our students are reading on grade level. We have amazing programming like that comes from the Office of Equity specifically to support our Black and brown students. And then we also have these college and career pathways that have shown that they work, right? We have increased graduation rates, increased A through G graduation rates, and decreased equity gaps within it, especially between white and African American students. That said, there is still more to go. The Measure N work, soon to be Measure H, has not had the same impacts yet on Latino students. And there's real opportunity to make sure that we're lifting up all of our Black and brown students because we know a rising tide lifts all. And so when we work to support everyone, when we work to support those most marginalized, we end up supporting everyone in the process. So I think that it can be a journey. I would love for you to partner with us and ensure that every kid in Oakland gets that quality education, that we are having programming that reflects the diversity of our cultures and our students, and that we get to a place where everyone can thrive. Thank you.
This question is really hits me at my core. So I'm a white person, and this question is saying, if I am a Black or a brown parent, why should I send my child to an OUSD school? Well, my story in Oakland starts a little over 15 years ago, moving here to teach at a community day school, a school where Oakland sends students who were expelled from our comprehensive school system. And as you can imagine, most of those kids were Black and brown. And I was a high school math and biology teacher there with no curriculum, a first-year teacher, no programs. The grounds were abysmal. These kids were having to walk through metal detectors. And here, the district provided them with the most novice teacher when they deserved the absolute best that our city or our district had to offer. And these are the families that I'm still in community with. These are the families who now have nephews or children that are going to the same schools that have failed my students from 15 years ago. And by failed, they didn't provide them access to an education that taught them how to read. They didn't have access to any type of electives or choice classes that would pull them in and make them feel like school was not just about sitting at a desk being silent and learning, but it's a place where you actually build your internal ability to have confidence and see yourself as somebody who can have choice and opportunity in this world. And our schools aren't doing that, and they're still not doing that 15 years later. And so right now, I don't think it's fair to look at these families and say, you have to go to your neighborhood school. You have to go to that school that's been failing your families. Because for them, it could be life and death. And so what I hope to bring is an intentional focus on the communities that we have failed for so many years. And for us to step back and say, can we keep doing the same thing? Or what dramatically needs to change? And I don't know that answer myself, but what I want to do is shine a light on this incredible problem related to us not educating our Black and brown children.
I'm a Black parent. People ask me all the time, why do I send my children to public schools? I went to public schools, and one of the things that public schools gifted me was being able to meet people from different backgrounds, whether it was class or diversity of cultures or just even language. I got an opportunity to be exposed to something that we don't realize is such a privilege in the Bay Area, particularly. And that is that diversity makes us very strong. It widens our worldview, and it provides with us a gift of being able to relate, understand, and stand together in unity with others. So when Black and brown parents ask me why they should enroll their children in our public schools, I say it's important for them to consider what kind of exposure do they want their children to have. There are different schools within our community, private, charter, and district-run public schools. And each of them are going to provide a very different level of exposure to our children. But our public schools provide our children with the most diversity. They provide our children with access to amazing instruction, and they provide our children with opportunities to understand that life has lots of complexities. I love our schools. My children are Spanish language learners. They go to dual immersion schools, and I wish that there were more of those in our district. And that is one of my priorities, is to think about how we ensure that our children are learning a language other than English, so that they can be able to interact and communicate across cultures. And one of the things that we underemphasize with all the challenges in Oakland is that our children push through and learn and build relationships with each other, friendships that will last a lifetime. And many of the folks that I know that are born and raised in Oakland, the things that they look back on are those joyful experiences, that the teachers that they built relationships with, the friends that they developed relationships with, and the things that they got an opportunity to learn, the field trips that they got an opportunity to go to. And those are the joyful experiences possible in our public schools when we are all focused on investing in our public schools to be able to do them. So I think we're moving in the direction that will allow us to deepen those joyful experiences and lessen the challenges in our public schools. But it's going to take all of us. That has always been the case. Every law, every structure that exists in our public schools, the fact that Black and Brown students have access is because Black and Brown communities have fought for that access. So for us to give up now would be a historical setback. These are our schools. This is our education system, and we have to shape it to be the high quality system that we really believe it can be. And that is the job that I am running to take on at a different level than just being a parent advocate and a policy advocate. I believe that being on the school board allows me the opportunity to really push some of the demands and the challenges that parents have really experienced and asked of this leadership to do. And I look forward for the opportunity to be able to proceed forward with some amazing guidance from our students and parents.
As a Mexican parent of 4 children, 2 currently attending Oakland Unified School District and 2 that will attend next year, I believe that public school, it is a right given to every individual in this country for free education. It is a place where they can receive the education needed without being discriminated because of race, legal status, and the parents' economic status. Public schools, it is the place where they can receive all of this free without having to worry of not being able to have the needed education or the proper schooling.
I am the son of working class Japanese immigrants, and my parents did not go to school beyond high school in pre-World War II Japan. My wife is the daughter of working class Mexican immigrants, and her parents did not go beyond elementary school in Mexico. I am the stepfather of my wife's 2 Chicano children, and I have been with them since their kindergarten years. Isabel and I wanted our children to attend neighborhood schools because the families there reflected our own families. Our 2 children attended La Escuelita Elementary School, Roosevelt Middle School, and Oakland High School. And while academic achievement at that time was low across the board at these schools, we believed then and we believe today that there are competent, committed, and caring educators working in all of our schools. We believed then and we believe today that there are loving children and loving families representing all races, ethnicities, and economic and social backgrounds attending our schools. Most of all, we believe that our 2 children will greatly benefit from being with teachers and students and families in our neighborhood OUSD schools. We believe that by being in our OUSD schools, our 2 children will discover their own values and their own path in their lives. And that's pretty much what happened.
When my family lived in Bolivia, they scraped together money to send my sister and I to a private all-girls Catholic school because they thought it would provide us with the best opportunities to get a quality education. My sister and I both struggled because of the strict standard of conduct and harshness of the staff. When we immigrated to the United States and attended public schools, everything changed. We were immersed in a new language, new culture, new school, new friends, but we excelled both academically and socially. This was due to the caring educators and classified staff who saw us as the next generation of leaders who needed to be nurtured and supported versus kids who needed to be lectured. This difference gave us the confidence we needed to not only graduate with honors, but also attend 4-year universities and find careers that we loved. I believe OUSD can be a place where this kind of transformative education can happen for all of our students. Our district needs the leadership of working people who've been transformed by public education and want to strengthen our public school system. We need to talk to students, families, and community members about what they want our schools to look like invest in those changes and work with those stakeholders to make it happen. I believe in the wisdom and knowledge and love that we as the Oakland community have for our schools. And as a school board member, I will fight every day to make our schools worthy of every single Black and brown child that walks in our doors.
What is your plan to meaningfully engage Black and brown parents, Black and brown led community organizations, and Black and brown community members in the education of our youth?
For 25 years, I have done amazing parent and student engagement, community organization engagement, and community leader engagement. And they're all very distinct levels of engagement that deserve a lot of investment from our district. So I'll take them one by one. What I'm going to do moving forward with student and parent engagement is really deepen our investment in the structures that have been established. We have amazing student governments. We have student groups in our campuses that have strong opinions about a myriad of different things that they love about our schools and things that they really want to see changed. I love being out now and being able to talk with students and ask them what their priorities are. And I can honestly say that the top priority for students is to definitely improve the school lunch. So I appreciate the honesty, and I want to continue to see that moving forward. With parent engagement, I think there are some ways that I envision that to be deepened. One is just to have more engagement happening from the school side to parents and vice versa. And being as a future board member, I would want to see my ability to have meetings with schools as well to understand how our policies on the board are landing in school sites. I'd also want to do a lot more engagement in my district and across the city to ensure that I'm hearing firsthand what people's experiences and suggestions are for policy and practice changes in our district that the board can take up. Last and not least, I do want to give a special level of shout out to the volunteering that our district leaders, student and parent leaders do when they sit on our committees like All City Council or the Local Control Accountability Plan, Parent Advisory, Student and Parent Advisory Committees. Those are hours upon hours of dedication that our student and parent leaders across the district give to us. And I want to make sure that we are listening to their recommendations and ensuring that we are making investments based on those recommendations. When it comes to community-based organizations, Black and brown, I want to meet with folks. I want to be able to understand what they're hearing from communities that I may not be able to get access to, and understand what those priorities look like in relationship to what our students and our parents are lifting up, and ways that I can bridge student and parents and community groups together to have dialogue with each other. This is some of the work that I have done in this district for quite a while, and I want to continue to do it as a board member. Last but not least, I would love to work with our community leaders to also be a part of those engagements, to be able to hear directly from students and parents some of the challenges, and then bring our community leaders and our community-based organizations together with our electeds across the city, with department chairs, so that we can be able to look at some of the gaps that I have noticed in my service that unfortunately we don't have enough dialogue and enough space to really co-design solutions to close gaps in services, as well as the massive level of recruitment necessary to ensure all our programs are fully staffed for our children's services across Oakland. So those are my ideas at this time, and I'm sure they're continuously going to evolve as they should, because as an elected representative, we should be hearing the ways in which we are being guided by our community to both improve, but also to ensure that we evolve in the idea of engagement. It may be one thing today, it may evolve over time to be more things, but I'm willing to put in the work and in the energy to engage engage our Black and Brown communities, from our students to our parents, our educators to classified staff, our community-based organizations to our community leaders. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
I recognize the rich history of the Black community in my district and the systematic racism that has stifled it. As a Latina, I also see the potential and the needs of the growing Latinx community in our district as well. I believe that we need to have tough conversations across the Black and Brown community to see what differences we have, what similarities we share, and develop a plan to address these needs collectively for our students. In order to do this, I plan to hold regular community meetings in different neighborhoods and invite organizations like Bay Area Plan, BOSS, Black Cultural Zone, Courage, Homies Empowerment, the Latino Task Force, Parent Voices, and All City Council, and of course other student groups to participate. I also plan to be available at community events, school functions, and actions. Lastly, I plan to hold office hours to discuss particular issues with students, community members, and leaders.
Meaningfully engaging Black and Brown parents and community members is a top priority for me as a school board member. It also was a top priority for me as a teacher when I was at Edna Brewer Middle School. So back in 2010 at Edna Brewer, there was about 9% white families. But if you walked through the buildings or you saw any adults in the classrooms, you could be guaranteed that they were white people. And I believe deeply that our children in our classrooms deserve to see adults that look like them and have shared identities. And that this is a critical piece for students to want to come to school every single day. So there were two things I did there that I would carry with me as a school board director and continue being an incredible partner in. So the first thing, as an algebra teacher, as a math teacher, I recognized that we needed more people in the classroom than just myself. And so I orchestrated a parent and community volunteer program that brought people into our classroom on a weekly basis that had shared identities with our kids. This really supported them, yes, in the math, but also just in developing that confidence, that agency, and that joy to be in school, and that they knew they were going to connect with somebody outside of just their teacher. That resulted in dramatic gains for our children. They had about 3 times the level of proficiency in math than their peers across the city. Additionally, I was part of a committee with Chris Chapman that brought the first African American Manhood Development Program to an Oakland middle school. We also had monthly family events that brought Black and Brown families into our building in ways that felt comfortable for them, nurturing a connection with groups of people that typically did not come into our school. I made sure to be present, to listen, to be engaged, to partner, and to really lend my voice only when needed, but overall be in community and be someone who was willing to do whatever it took to change the narrative of who belongs in a school building. Getting parents to engage in their kids' education is the number one thing that I believe will impact our Black and Brown families. And it's a result of this system. We have failed these parents. We have failed these communities. And it's our job to create processes and ways to pull them back in and say, no, this is a space for you. We are creating and designing programs and processes that will support Black and Brown families to bring you back into a system that has historically failed you. So I look forward to doing that as a board member.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done at Black neighborhoods. And it is something that needs to be done in connection with the city to make neighborhoods safe and help students to get the support they need. But at the same token, we have brown students that are equally affected. Black and brown students are being equally attacked. Services and programs that can help them are slowly being taken away from the schools. We need to make a stop to this discrimination, to this racism to our Black and Brown students.
My plan to engage Black and Brown parents in our education in Oakland Unified is to conduct town hall meetings, meet with parents at sites, and really listen to parent voices. In addition, I think parents need to have some decision-making ability on the board as well. We've seen that Black and Brown parents have really fought for Black reparations and to get police out of the schools. We need to engage that parent activism in our work in the district. Thank you.
My theory of change really aligns closely with a phrase that originated from the South African disability rights movement, which is nothing about us without us. The idea that those most impacted by systems of oppression should be part of the solution. And so this question about how to meaningfully engage Black and Brown communities, Black and Brown organizations in this work is really one to work in partnership, right? I don't think that it's surface level engagement. It's not just compliance, check the box, but it's really like deep partnership and recognizing their lived experiences as like the most valid truths, and then working in partnership to come up with community developed solutions. That inclusive design framework is one that really resonates. And so really starting with listening and hearing what folks on the ground are experiencing, and then working to come up with solutions in partnership and naming, I think, the real trade-offs that occur either way, the realities that I think the district is facing, so that everyone has all of the information, and then we can come together on solutions that work best, understanding that there are limitations and that we are going to have to, compromise in some cases, but it's doing it so in partnership rather than us as a board making a decision behind closed doors that people don't understand. And I think there's real opportunity to do so that includes transparency, that includes, again, that deep, authentic community engagement, that includes feedback loops, and again, starting with listening from the beginning and then coming back at the end and making sure we're clear on why we're doing something as well.
I have always been able and available and willing and wanting to meet regularly with Black and Brown community organizations and community leaders regarding the education of Black and Brown students in our Oakland public schools. I will continue to be available to have candid and productive dialogue and to do the necessary work to build durable working relationships with community organizations to make real positive change in our schools and to advance learning outcomes for Black and Brown students. I also plan to work with individual schools, both in District 2, but also ideally across the school district, to meet with Black and Brown parents and students. I will be reviewing schools, their disaggregated academic performance data, and I plan to discuss with school leaders how they are addressing performance outcomes and how they are partnering with Black and Brown parents to make improvements in these outcomes. I hope to build a network of, again, durable working relationships with Black and Brown parents to put forward some pretty significant reform measures, particularly around our parcel tax measures, so that we can get those parcel taxes focused on improving learning outcomes for students, particularly Black and Brown students, in our elementary and in our middle schools.
Recognizing the historical and ongoing harm to Black students and families that schooling has done, the reparations resolution that was passed by the OUSD School Board in 2021, and the reparation work being done in places like San Francisco and Evanston, Illinois, what should reparations look like for Black students and families in Oakland? What is the role of the Black Students Thriving Task Force in that work?
Reparations that passed back on 2021, I believe that they're not being placed in effect at this moment, since we see these attacks on Black and Brown neighborhoods. Our Black students have been targeted. They continue to close our schools. We have all of this discrimination that is going on against black students, but it is also affecting our brown students. So we need to have the school boards to be held accountable for all these actions. We need the school board to actually have a strong hand and make sure that the district actually works on it. So it is something that is still is on the process and that it needs to be worked on. But if we don't change the people that it is on this board currently affecting our students, I truly do not see this going any further or being fully implemented like it has on other cities.
I think the first question around what should Black reparations look like here in Oakland, especially as it relates to school board and the school district, should not be asked of me, but rather I should be listening to the community. And that's where, if I'm looking at the reparations for Black students, their list of demands, I not only support, but have done work on so many of the line items or the requests there, such as closing the Black digital divide. When the pandemic hit, I worked in partnership with many others to stand up and launch Oakland Undivided to ensure that every Oakland Public School student had an internet, computer, and culturally competent tech support. And in that single school year, 21 to 22, we went from 12% of students from low-income backgrounds being connected to 98%. And we closed the racial gaps within it, right? So all of the race and ethnicities were up to 98%, which I think is huge. Another one is kind of meeting the needs, the basic needs of the Black community. And when the pandemic hit again, I worked in partnership with others to raise $5 million to ensure that we met the basic needs of our residents, and especially those most marginalized. I've worked on college and career access from cradle to career supports so that all of our students, but again, especially our Black and brown students, not only graduate high school, but graduate A through G ready and then have the supports that they need to get into college, and not just get into college, but complete it, because we know the worst thing that can happen is they enroll in a 4-year college, take out loans, and then don't complete it. And so really recognizing that persistent support. I have been a huge advocate for literacy work, recognizing again the huge racial disparities within it. Upwards of 70% of our white kids are reading on grade level by 3rd grade, and less than a quarter of our Black and brown kids. So again, we really need to recognize those disparities and work to advance them. And then really recruiting and retaining teachers who look like our students. That has been one of my main priorities during my day job. And I launched an initiative called Teachers Rooted in Oakland, aimed at doing just that, increasing recruitment and retention of our Black, Latina, and other teachers of color by specifically addressing the cost of housing, because we know housing affordability is the #1 push factor for why teachers leave the district. And we know it's a huge barrier for why they can't even enter in the first place. In just 2 years, we've helped the school district triple the number of teacher residents and more than triple the number of teacher residents of color, because we know that students need teachers who look like them, who share their lived experiences. So again, my job is really to listen and to lift up the work that is the requests that are here, that I'm hearing on the ground. I'm not going to pretend like I know what is best for other people when I'm not experiencing that myself. And then the second part of the question was around sorry, I lost it for a second. The second part of the question was around what role does the task force play? And I think that it's huge. I think that they exist for a reason. And I have only been a board member for a couple of months, but the one item that has come up as it relates to it, I voted in support of their requests and their work, and will continue to do so. And if for some reason I feel like that's not the case, I will have conversations ahead of time so that no one is surprised. But again, I hope that that will never be the case. And I really appreciate the work that the Black Student Thriving Task Force is doing and want to continue to lift it up.
In Oakland, Black reparations has been a long-fought battle. And I think to find out how to actually carry out the resolutions, we need to listen to the voices of Black parents, Black teachers, and Black students. They fought for it, and they have the right to determine what that looks like in our district.
Black reparations in Oakland Unified School District would mean identifying and spending the resources necessary for Oakland Unified School District to achieve with Black students academic and social outcomes that are equal to those of white students within the school district. I am looking for leadership from the task force to research, to identify, and to provide the specific remedies and the specific strategies insofar as they are related to the kind of money that is needed, the kind of people and leadership that is needed, the kinds of policies that need to be created or rescinded, and a shared power relationship with Black families and in our schools and in the school district. I also think that in order to have the kind of impact reparations has the potential of having with Black students and families, is that there has to be an equally vigorous engagement of the City of Oakland and the County of Alameda in providing reparations for Black families. Too much of the policy and systems work of these two governmental agencies impact the performance and operation of our public school system, and that they have an equal responsibility to make Black families and Black children whole in terms of their educational trajectory.
So to make that policy real, to make reparations for Black students real, there's a couple of things that I believe are really important. The first thing is I believe we must rescind the current proposed closures that the board approved in February. I think that those closures of majority Black schools, of which 4 out of 7 of those schools are, will cause significant harm to the district, including lost revenue. I think that the first thing to make reparations real is to acknowledge when something is harmful for Black students and to be able to stop doing that practice. In this case, that practice is school closures. In addition, I believe that the policy is very clear that we need to invest in those majority Black schools, and we have the resources currently in our system through the means of a community school grant. We have supplemental and concentration grants through our state funding system, of which we've rolled over $20 million over this last 2 years. And I believe there's a lot of Title I funding that can also be used in targeted ways to invest in majority Black and brown schools, specifically in East Oakland and West Oakland. In addition to those things, I think that make reparations real for Black students, families, and educators, we also need to invest in the Thriving Fund. The idea of the Thriving Fund was so that the task force would be able to oversee the fund with a set of criteria to ensure that investments are principally directed to Black students, services, and closing the opportunity gaps that we have seen exist at school sites for Black students. In other words, if a school site doesn't have a program or a specific opportunity set aside for Black students, a school could come and propose something, or vice versa. The task force could propose a program or an initiative and be able to see that that is targeted to Black students on the ground. Last but not least, I believe that it's very critical for reparations to be real, that we talk about the basic needs that Black students and families are not getting. And this is where our partnerships with city and county become very critical. We need to ensure that any unhoused Black student and family are being able to get to the top priority of the line. Being able to stabilize our students' housing is a big contribution to their academic and whole child development, which is what we're all about. So those are the things that I would lift up as the highest priority right now. And I believe the role of the task force is both to push the district to look at the places where there are gaps, like with services in our school sites that are not principally directed to students, being able to monitor the overall implementation of different initiatives and their lens to serving Black students, and last but not least, really establishing what the criteria and the investment process of the Thriving Fund would look like. Thank you.
We have historically failed our Black families for generations. And across our city, in certain neighborhoods and certain schools, we have not increased the educational opportunities for those children in 30 or 40 years. What reparations look like for Black students and families in Oakland is the promise of a guaranteed education. That we will not move your child through our system without teaching them how to read. We will not move your child through our system without teaching them how to do math in middle school. We will not move your child through high school without engaging coursework that sets them up for either college or career. That we are promising that, and that we are then aligning our priorities and our investments with those promises, and we as the board and our superintendent is being held accountable by the community towards those metrics. The Black Reparations Resolution and the Black Student Thriving Task Force has named a number of these priorities as their mission. What I really want to do is focus in on 2 or 3 of those criteria laid out in those plans and make certain every single school board meeting that we are informing the public of what we have done towards those objectives, how it is going, and what we are going to do differently if it does not showcase success. This cannot be something that's a 10-year plan. This cannot be something that's a 5-year plan. Our children deserve yesterday for us to guarantee them an education that sets them up for a life of choice, opportunity, and upward mobility. I want to come in and take a fanatical focus to 3rd grade reading. Not just because everyone says literacy for all, but with my leadership, I think I can hold steadfast to goals. I can help wrap around our collaborative approach to what we are doing towards those goals. And I can also say no to things that does not meet the criteria to support that goal. Our Black families deserve one thing in our education system, and that's the promise of an education. And I want to make sure that everything we are talking about, all of our energy, is dedicated to promising them that. When we think about where our teachers are across our city, the teachers that have the most tenure, where are they and where should they be? Our most quality principals, where are they and where should they be? Our community partners, where are they and where should they be? Right now, that is left up to certain school sites and certain principals.
OUSD has perpetuated unmeasurable harm to Black students and families. In order to break this cycle, we must do what we can to repair the harm and prevent future harm from occurring. To me, this means that we need to acknowledge the harmful actions and policies of the district, then follow the recommendations of the reparations resolution that was created by Black students and families. If elected on the board, I would fully fund the work of the Black Students Thriving Task Force, as they play a key role in the reparations work by guiding and monitoring the implementations of the reparations resolution. I would also work with like-minded school board directors to rescind the school closures and mergers that were voted on last year and prioritize the budget so that it ensures our classrooms get the funding that we need to provide the high quality education our students deserve.
Outside of the school walls and the school day, how should the city and county government be supporting the education and coming of age of our young people? What is your role in that? What partnerships could you bring to bear to make that happen?
When I think about how we can partner with the city in relationship to our schools, a few different things come to mind that I have been a strong advocate of and would continue to be as a school board member. One is around teacher housing. I believe strongly that students having teachers in front of them that look like them and share similar identities leads to greater engagement in school, better attendance at school, and therefore really allows students to be set up for success. In order for teachers from our town to remain here and become teachers, we need to, of course, increase compensation for them, but at the same time, we need to provide subsidized housing, especially while they're young teachers in our system because the pay is so low. I know that is an area that the district has loosely partnered with the city on, and I'd love to be more involved with finding ways we can formalize that and establish a 10 and 20-year plan. Additionally, when I think about partnerships with the city, I think about Measure N. And I believe that through that parcel tax, which also is now up again on the ballot, we have really been able to support our students with college, career academies, pathway programs. The district has seen real changes in their high schools. We've raised the graduation rate about 12% from 2014 to 2019. This parcel tax really allows for students to have not only rigorous academics, but more contextualized and integrated curriculum, with real world experiences and personalized learning, things that we know engage kids in school and make them feel a sense of belonging, not just sitting in a classroom all day. So when I think about a partnership with the city, I actually am thinking about, Measure N also allows for partnerships with nonprofits, with private companies, with city governments, and allows our children to get in these spaces. And again, build their confidence, and it shouldn't just be about who your family knows or who your mom and dad knows for you to get internships or jobs. And this actually levels the playing field in a really incredible way. And I would hope to expand those partnerships across the city. The last thing that comes to my mind is the Oakland Promise. I also think that's been a loose partnership between the city and the school district, and there's ways to more formalize that process and integrate that into our schools, our systems, so all families know about it. And Oakland Promise really supports our Oakland families from infant all the way to career in many different ways. So I would look forward to partnering with the city on those areas in the future.
I think that the city and the school district need to work together to provide internships for students. I've been working with building trades locals and looking at how students can actually get skills through an internship program in high school that then lead to jobs and stuff after school, after they graduate. I think that the unions are willing to work with us on this, and I think it's a very important thing to work on for our students. In addition, I support the academies that are at schools that have been funded by Measure N and hopefully will continue to be funded by Measure H. Those include media academies, art academies, and medical and health field academies. These will guarantee our students progress to get into college as well as jobs in the future.
The City of Oakland should focus first on restoring, protecting, improving, and expanding basic services that directly impact the quality of life for working families. These basic services include clean, safe, and family-friendly parks and playgrounds, a comprehensive public safety infrastructure that goes beyond law enforcement, that is responsive to communities and neighborhoods most in need, and the preservation and expansion of affordable housing for families. The County of Alameda should focus on partnering with Oakland Public Schools and with community organizations in the development and operation of robust, comprehensive family resource centers based at and integrated with a large number of neighborhood schools in our toughest neighborhoods. These family resource centers would be open in the evenings and on weekends, as well as through school holiday stretches. This is the basic public health infrastructure that these family resource centers can provide with basic income supports and a number of public health information and referral and resources, the ability to support families around attendance, improving attendance, after school, summer, and intercession programs. There's a whole variety of things that these resource centers can be a real hub for neighborhood families. And I believe that the county has a kind of a governmental self-interest in making this happen in partnership with schools and community organizations. And then finally, the County of Alameda through First Five of Alameda County will be responsible for the expansion of child care and early childhood education as the Alameda County's Measure C and the City of Oakland's Measure AA gets rolled out in the next couple of years. This expansion of very vital services to families and helping to build a pipeline for both school readiness and literacy should be closely developed with the Oakland Unified School District.
Oakland is at a very pivotal moment where it really matters how we invest outside of our school day in our young folks who are coming of age. One of the most important things that I've heard young folks say is they want to have economic opportunity to survive in Oakland. With our high housing costs and with the pressure of being able to stay housed, many of our students are concerned about their ability to stay in our city. So I think the first thing that I, as an elected official, can do to support our children's coming of age is to be able to meet their needs in the ways that they have already demanded. And they've demanded, one, a voice at the table. They have asked the voters, and the voters have approved for them to be able to vote in our school board election. And it is now in the hands of our county registrar to make that possible. We need all of our city officials, our electeds on the school board, as well as many others, to ensure that that is a right that we respect come 2024. Second, I think we really have to invest in what programs students have demanded. They have wanted apprenticeship opportunities, internships, and a pathway into some of the living wage jobs that exist in our city and outside of our city. It is our due diligence to make sure that our county and our city resources are investing in the training and the apprenticeship programs that will allow them to be able to thrive in our city at an economic level that reduces stress. The third thing that I have heard from students that I think is really important is to ensure that they feel safe. And to feel safe, we have to have honest conversations. And I believe that being able to really deal with the fact that there are so many mental health issues amongst our young folks that have been masked by anger, masked by not attending school, masked by many other symptoms, that we have to be able to increase our investment, especially at the county level, in our mental health resources for our Black and Brown students across the city. So I feel like as an elected official that it's my job to continue to engage with students, engage with our young people, hear the barriers that they've met in our city, and be able to really pull together departments like the Violence Prevention, the Oakland Fund for Children and Youth, our county social services, and have hard conversations with even probation about how we can prevent our children from getting in the school to prison pipeline by listening to them and investing in the priorities that they have. I believe that happens through stakeholder engagement. I believe it happens by pulling departments across, city and county together to listen to young folks, and then really putting our investments where they have demanded them.
Outside of the school day, I think we should be partnering with the city and county governments to host a variety of events and provide a variety of opportunities for our youth and families. From free events at our Oakland parks, museums, and kids attractions, to internships, apprenticeships, and jobs for our young people and their families, I believe that it is important to ensure that the whole family thrives around the child so that they can provide the child with the best opportunities. As a school board director, I will build relationships with city, county, and state leaders to bring these plans to fruition. On a statewide level, I will work with the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, to ensure that every Oakland child care provider and elementary school educator knows about Footsteps to Brilliance, a free early literacy and biliteracy online tool that provides California children and families with free access to interactive digital ebooks, songs, games in English and in Spanish. On the county level, I will work with the Alameda County Office of Education Trustee Area 2, Angela Normand, to ensure Partnerships between OUSD and social services continue to fund student access to mental health services through our community schools. I will also work closely with the county to improve academic success by working with the ACOE's leaders like Bree Monroe to ensure our progress on the systemic instructional review goals. Locally, I will work with the Peralta trustee Diane Delphine Polk and Peralta Federation of Teachers to open up more dual enrollment classes for our students, for our high school students, and support families and OUSD staff in accessing community college courses.
The city and the county need to work together to make this city safe, to make Oakland safe. Each neighborhood has its own ups and downs, but the city and the board members need to work together to develop programs that can help each community. The city can protect the streets and help with funding that can create programs to teach on each community. The school board could find the correct teachers and instructors that are certified for these programs. These programs could actually help our students to succeed in life. These programs and this schooling could actually keep our streets safer, since our students will be learning new careers, will be taking new paths out of all of this harm that is surrounding them.
Students spend about 14% of their time actually in school. As such, it is critical that we recognize education cannot happen in a vacuum, but rather occurs in the context of their community, in the context of their city, in the context of everything that is happening in the world. And so we must work in partnership with the city and other government partners, as well as nonprofits and other leaders in the community to ensure that our kids are set up for success. In my day job, I am actually the Deputy Director of Education for the Oakland Mayor. And although the mayor has no formal jurisdiction over education, we recognize how critical education is for the whole city's success. And so I work in partnership with OUSD, with nonprofits, with labor, and with so many others to ensure that we create the conditions outside of the K-12 system so that our kids, our families, and our educators can thrive. And so I would love to just maintain that partnership that we've already established, as well as expand and deepen it to others to ensure that our kids, our families, and our educators are set up for success. That means, how do we support housing affordability for our educators? What are we doing to ensure that our communities outside of our schools are safe, are walkable? What are we doing to address those systems of oppression that impact everyone's daily lives in very covert and overt ways, right? Like redlining, that we still see the effects of it today, both with the digital divide and who has access to high quality, reliable internet, but also where do people have green spaces? Where do people have safe places to play? Not as much in East Oakland, both for internet and for safe green spaces. And so how do we then work in partnership with the city, with the county, with the state to ensure that we are addressing some of those so that our kids can thrive, not only in the classroom, but also outside?
The Bay Area has one of the highest concentrations of wealth and social capital in the world. How will you creatively leverage the resources in and around the Bay to serve our youth? How are you going to leverage BOEN, AALAA, and BOSS and steward our relationships?
There is great wisdom, talent, and wealth in our community. I want to make sure that we creatively leverage these resources to support our students and families inside and outside the classroom. The COVID pandemic brought many inequities to light, but it also taught us that we save us. And we need to have that mindset when we think about how to transform our schools. We, the Black and Brown community of Oakland, need to support each other in transforming our schools so they can be places of transformative learning and cultivate the next generation of leaders. I plan to do that by partnering with Black and Brown community leaders to understand the budget, advocate for reparations resolution, and provide more opportunities for our students and families. I will work closely with the leadership of the Brotherhood of Elders Network, African American Latino American Association, BOSS, and others to ensure we leverage resources and social capital to promote racial justice in OUSD.
So yes, the Bay Area has some of the highest concentrations of wealth and social capital in the world. And I believe that we definitely want to creatively leverage that so that we are ensuring everyone can and does invest in our schools. And the most creative way for us to ensure that wealth and social capital is used to maximize the investment in schools is to ensure that we have progressive taxation statewide as well as locally. In other words, I believe that corporations and wealthy individuals should pay their fair share of taxes so that we can fund our public education system and our social services. But at the end of the day, I am not someone who is wealthy, and I am not someone who is well connected to wealth. And so when I'm looking at the idea of BOEN and ALAA and BOSS, and the fact that there is relationships that you have with individuals who do have wealth and social capital, I would like to lean on those relationships and really listen to your networks around some of the ways that our communities can benefit from that wealth and social capital. I think one thing that comes immediately to mind is really crafting strong community benefit agreements. And this is something that has been used and advocated and organized around within our communities. And I think that with our corporations, there's an opportunity to really create stronger community benefit agreements to support some of our public schools and be able to support some of our out of school, community-based programs. And I would want to see BOEN and AALAA and BOSS help us to be able to steward some of those relationships.
In my opinion, while more money is always is a good thing, Oakland does not need to leverage more philanthropic and corporate resources. Oakland has had more than its fair share over the last 25 years, but the educational, social, and health outcomes for Oakland's young people have not significantly improved. What our schools need today are anchor partners, community organizations and institutions that are qualified and deeply committed to working with a school or a set of schools in a given neighborhood over the long haul, over an entire generation. Organizations and institutions that are able to integrate into schools, to implement high quality out of school time learning opportunities, are able to engage parents and other adult family members to be in relationship with teachers, to provide a range of critical family support services and emergency services, and to engage and connect other neighborhood residents, merchants, and city and county services to the school. These organizations and institutions, we simply do not have enough of these kinds of organizations to the scale that Oakland schools need. This condition exists despite the millions and millions of dollars spent in Oakland over the past 25 years by philanthropic organizations and corporate giving. Oakland has an inadequate grassroots infrastructure supporting and pushing our public schools. I want to work with the Brotherhood, with the AALLAA, BOSS, and other community-based organizations to explore and to find common ground on how we collectively move forward to build that grassroots infrastructure, to partner and to push our schools to do better, to make our neighborhood schools the best possible educational pathway for kids who live in that neighborhood.
It is really important for us to recognize that government was not meant to change. It was meant to be stable for something that citizens, residents could rely on. And at the same time, government was built on so many systems of oppression. And so in order for us to actively change that, we need to be working intentionally to change our systems so they work better for everyone, especially those most marginalized. And that will often take leveraging private dollars to push the public to be better. And I have a track record of doing that. We live in the 5th largest economy in the world, and Silicon Valley has so many dollars, and yet we see inequities here in Oakland. And so we need someone who is able to access and leverage those dollars. I named Oakland Undivided in an earlier question, but when the pandemic hit, we immediately raised $12.5 million to ensure that we can get computers, internet, and tech support for all of our Oakland public school students. And again, in just one school year, the 21-22 school year, we went from 12% of students from low-income backgrounds being connected to 98%. Another thing is I worked in partnership with labor and other elected leaders to write and lead Measure AA to bring in $30 million annually for preschool and college and career supports. It's because we know that 90% of brain development happens in the first 5 years of life, and we know that there are huge inequities in who has access to quality early education, and that we need to support them all the way through cradle and career. And then for teachers rooted in Oakland, I was able to raise over $2 million from private sources to then leverage a $5 million state budget ask. Again, recognizing how can we leverage private dollars to unlock and access public dollars, because that's where we know ultimately we can create that change. And I have that track record to prove it. Thank you.
Oakland Unified School District has a large funding. And unfortunately, all of this is staying with the officials or elected officials at the offices, on the administration. So this is something that needs to be worked on. We need to find that center line where this funding could also go down as far as the schools, the teachers, the students. So there are a lot of things that need to be changed and need to be looked on. There are a few groups, organizations that they need to get together with the school board to find a middle line where the priority will be the education for the students. So this is something that has to be also be looked at with a lot of caution. There are many paragraphs, many writing in there that needs to be properly looked on before making decisions.
In Oakland, we've been known to have a number of different partnerships with private companies across our state and across our area. What I have found is that we don't typically leverage those resources and make sure that they get to the students who need them the most. So what I hope to do is come in and provide that ongoing and consistent question of who is receiving these resources and why, and making sure that we're leveraging and using data to help us understand which children currently have access to community partners or community partner investments and which children don't. And to ensure that our most marginalized communities are being targeted and that we're making sure to equitably distribute those to their sites. Additionally, I'm really grateful you shared these acronyms of different organizations so I can better get to know them. As a teacher and as an instructional coach at Edna Brewer, I worked with different partner organizations to help bring grant funding into our middle school system so we could create and design a blended learning program for our children. This was back in 2010, where most middle schools did not have access to computer carts or software programs or additional adults to support that type of program that has been kind of research proven to increase results for kids, especially kids who need a certain degree of intervention support. When I look at these few organizations, the African American Latino Action Alliance, Brotherhood of Elders Network, and Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency, I would want to deeply better understand the ecosystem of partners specifically supporting our African American students and their families, and work to create some type of infrastructure where we are making sure that we are understanding the scope of these partners across the district, and that we are equitably providing those partnerships throughout our schools, specifically for our most marginalized communities.
Beyond standardized test scores and graduation rates, how should we measure success for students and families within OUSD?
While it is important to recognize academic outcomes, right? Third grade literacy, we know that that is a common predictor for high school graduation, college completion, ultimately like life outcomes. And conversely, historically, the number of prison cells has literally been built and projected off of third grade literacy. So we know that those kind of outcomes are important and how our students are graduating high school, so that they are ready to enter the career of their dreams or the college of their dreams. And that's not the only thing, right? We need to make sure that our suspension and expulsion rates are not disproportionate by race. We need to be looking at the California Healthy Kids surveys. Which kids have caring adults in their lives? Like, how are they doing social, emotionally? We know mental and behavioral health is so key, has always been so key. And we're finally talking about it more, especially as a result of the pandemic. And we need to make sure our kids are doing all right. And then there's this like intangible thing, right? Like, our kids deserve not just to be learning and getting that quality education, but to like have joy and to be like loving it. And that's something that you can't measure with a test. That's something that you can't measure as much with a survey. But when you walk on a school campus, when you enter a classroom, like, you can feel it. You know immediately when kids are just like there and loving it. It's something I like to call the butts out of seat, because they're so like in love with learning that their butts are in the air. They're leaning in, they're doing their work. And that is something I think we need to strive for everywhere. Every hallway that you walk down, you should feel that joy. You should feel that love for the community. And I think we can get there. And I'm really excited to be doing that in partnership with you. So I would just be incredibly honored for your support. Thank you.
Well, first, I think school attendance is fundamental. You have to be in school. And so I think being able to track and measure regular school attendance is an important indicator. I think second is standards-based report cards. Kind of old school teacher assessment is fundamental. Teachers are the professionals in providing instruction and instructional coaching to our young people. Their evaluation of student work in accordance with established performance and academic standards is absolutely critical. We know the relevance of teacher assessment as evidenced by the elimination of English and mathematics entrance exams at the community college level. And then finally, I think individual and group performance, achievement in individual and group performance is fundamental. So these are in areas such as music, in the arts, in dance, in acting, in speaking, in writing, in media production, in leadership and student government, in athletics, in project-based learning, and in community service projects. These are all hands-on applied activities that require discipline, it requires practice, it requires hard work to be able to perform at the top level. And I think being able to recognize students for that work is important. And so I think when you add all these things up, you triangulate and you get a well-rounded kind of assessment of what the learning experience and really what are the aptitudes and the skills and the kind of real motivation of a young person over time if we have much more of a comprehensive assessment process. And now that is as it relates to measuring success for students and families within the school district. But there is something that students and families are to measure the schools in their success in educating and providing a warm and nurturing and a safe learning environment for young people. I guess that would be another question, but I think that that's also something that we all have to work on, because if schools are evaluated on that basis, I think we do better, and then I think as a result, I think student outcomes become better.
During the development of Reparations for Black Students campaign, we listened to hundreds of students and parents, educators, principals about what it would look like if OUSD was providing students with a quality experience. In other words, what would Black thriving look like? And families and students particularly lifted up that they want to feel safe. They want to feel loved. They want to feel their identity affirmed. They want to feel academically prepared. They want to feel that there is culturally relevant curriculum. They want to feel that they are that they have a sense of belonging in our schools, amongst many other things. And so I believe when we ask the question, what has to be measured, we need to look at measuring those things. And one of the things that we learned in our task force is that although there's a tendency upon the system to look at the California Healthy Kids Survey as the be-it-all survey, that survey doesn't necessarily ask the questions that we would want to ask Black students around whether they have a sense of belonging in our school or whether they feel like their cultural identity is being honored. So I would lift up that not only do we have the charge of going beyond looking at standardized testing, but I believe that we have to create tools that are culturally relevant, that are not used in a way that is alienating for students and doesn't lock out students, even from our transitional case students all the way up to our transitional age young adults, right? We need valuable feedback about how to improve our system so that we can look at different ways to measure success. When I think of what student success looks like and feels like for me, it's more than just academics. I do want my children to go to schools that help them to develop as social emotional skills. I want them to develop physical skills, to be able to know how to take care of their bodies. I need that partnership as a parent because they are at school multiple hours of the day. And so I do believe that there is so much in this area that we can work together. And this is a core component of what I believe the task force can and should shepherd in OUSD, as well as across the city and the county, and thinking about how we can really evaluate success in multiple ways beyond standardized testing. Thank you.
When we think about success for our Black and Brown families and students, I think there's a foundational component that I would want to focus in on, which is how are we making our Black families feel welcome in our schools? So I would want to take a focus to that. How are we bringing them into our system? How are we bringing them into our enrollment office? How are we bringing them into the district at the district level? How is each individual principal creating a theory of action to support making Black families feel welcome and that they belong? Once we can do that and focus on that, I think some of these other areas I talk about will start increasing in terms of Black student engagement. So besides test scores, there's a few things that I'd really want to think about. Are Black students engaging in a number of our activities or programs that we have across our system, but often don't have as many Black students that are representative of our city? So when we look at the Oratorical Fest across the city, are we making sure that our Black students are prioritized and thought about in terms of recruitment? Thinking about our sports, our drama, our music programs, the academies across our high schools. When we think about all of those areas, who is being part of those programs and who is not? And so success for me would be building the foundation to welcome more Black families into those spaces that have historically not been for them, and create pathways where students can get there and also be met with success, not feel like an outsider, but see themselves in those different spaces. Lastly, I believe all of that, building that foundation and then finding ways to bring more Black students into places that really encourage self-expression and build their confidence and agency so they believe that they can have a life of choice and opportunity. If we can do that foundational building, make sure students feel welcome, families feel welcome, we can increase the representation in some of those self-expressive areas or academies, then I believe that will lead towards increased attendance rates. And so if you look at attendance rates across our city, attendance rates are lowest for our Black and brown communities. Now, I think that is directly related to our inability to welcome these students and these families into areas of schooling that would make them feel happy, that would make them feel connected with an educational community outside of just academics.
Standardized tests are only one way to measure student growth. There are many other ways that are significant to our students. Some of these include more narrative report cards, more narrative discussions between students, teachers, and parents. And they also include project-based learning, that a lot of our students thrive when they're out doing things with what they learn. For example, my students last year did a project with land acknowledgements where they actually did the research on the harm that's been caused to the Ohlone, and then they actually read their land acknowledgements on the intercom each day at school. And this gave them a voice, and I think that's often what's missing in our student evaluations is their voice and to show what they've learned.
Our students' GPA, the graduation rates, it helps us to find how successful our students have been. But we also have to know how many students have continued to university, college, or how many were able to attend to a trade school. Those are the things that are more important to find out or to know how many of graduated students have been kept out of the system or did not go into the system within the past 3 to 5 years. I think that is the best way to measure if OUSD was successful on the teaching for these students. We have to make more plans, programs, and encourage more our students to continue their education.
Test scores and graduation rates are only a snapshot of student achievement within OUSD. I believe a true measurement of success is the number of students we retain throughout their academic career, how many families we engage in our school site councils and PTAs and other family groups, and how many educators and classified staff we retain year after year. I believe we can achieve this by investing directly into the classroom, using our community schools funds wisely, and using our bloated reserves to invest in our workforce and our facilities. As a school board member, I will work with students, families, labor, and community to help our district thrive and become a vibrant place that our families want to be a part of.